Hey folks, Dust here, and in an effort to do some more content on this channel around Valorant, I decided I would bring back a series I used to do for Counter-Strike called Behind the Play. And with Behind the Play in Counter-Strike, I used to break down specific tactics or plays that I thought were interesting or innovative or impactful, and kind of just talk through them and kind of highlight some of the strategical elements of the game, basically, right? Now, I'm not exactly sure how I want to bring that show into Valorant, if I want to do kind of similar things where I only focus on like one particular strat or a couple particular strats of a match and kind of do it that way, or if I want to break down an entire attacking halves or defending halves or what have you of important games or something like that. I'm not really sure. I'm actually really relying on community feedback at this point, so I really hope that in the comments below or on social media you'll kind of tell me what you think. But what I want to do with this particular video is take a look at the attacking side of T1 on Bind in their quarterfinals win over Cloud9 in the UMG qualifier, which actually knocked out Cloud9 from qualifying for First Strike and saw T1 obviously making it over to the main event, which will be taking place very soon. And this was a really big game because Cloud9 had been consistently placing within the top 4 of the North American region for quite some time, and T1 was kind of in this rebuilding phase, bringing on Spider and Dazed and trying to get the T1 team up to snuff and be considered a top NA team, which I think they've certainly been doing lately. And I'm going to focus on some of the things that T1 were doing well on their attacking side, but I also will point out a couple of blunders by Cloud9 in my opinion. My goal is mostly to highlight things I saw that were really cool, but sometimes you can't help but to highlight things that go wrong. If you folks like this, again, I can tweak the format going forward, and I can maybe do some behind the play videos for some of the First Strike matches as they happen, particularly for North America and Europe, as that's the two regions I'm kind of most focused on. But either way, without further ado, let's start talking about this one. So let's start with composition. So for T1, a lot of things are pretty much the same that you'll see across the majority of their map pool, with Brax pretty much always playing Cypher right now. Scoodle is pretty much insta-locking Jet. There's been a couple of maps where he would play something other than Jet, but lately he's been pretty much playing Jet every single map. And then Daze is pretty much always playing Silva, the only exception really being Split, where he will pick up Raze instead because Silva doesn't get played on Split by really anyone. And then one thing you will notice here is this is one of the maps where Spider will not play Omen. He will actually pick up the Raze, and AZK, instead of playing Breach, will be on the Omens. Now, when you look over at Cloud9, things are a lot different than what I expect. They have a couple of different compositions that they'll run on Bind, but generally you're always going to see Shinobi on the Omen. You're usually going to see Vice on Silva, and you're usually going to see Relax either on Raze or Phoenix. The big difference here is that they have Mitch on Phoenix, which normally he's going to be playing Killjoy on this map. And then Tins kind of switches between playing Reyna and Jet. That's kind of across the entire map pool, honestly. He kind of plays it off a feel a lot of the time. So just something to kind of note about composition. And now we're going to take a look at this pistol round, because this is a round that I feel Cloud9 should have definitely won, and this kind of got them started on the wrong foot as soon as we get going. And I'm going to have the game muted because the commentary audio can kind of distract me when I'm trying to talk, so excuse me there. And basically what you're seeing on this pistol round is basically what T1 likes to do on default. When you will often see Spider, using Raze to get the boombot inside Showers and get Showers control. That's pretty much the default way they play that out. Dazed on Silva will kind of float around gathering information with his recon bolt and drones on helping establish map control in certain areas of the map. Same with ACK on Omen. He's generally going to float around setting up smokes depending on what they're trying to take control of or what they're trying to execute. They usually will have Brax playing Cypher over basically just guarding Hookah and either watching for Hookah aggression or maybe taking some Hookah control for himself or feinting it, trying to keep people in place. He could do a number of different things, try to push and pull rotations or at least keep tabs on aggressive defensive setups on this side of the map. And this is a little bit different because a lot of teams, when they have a Cypher on this map, they will typically play it towards Showers. Something like, Finesse, for example, on Envy, and a couple other teams obviously will have their Cypher playing over towards Showers control because the camera can be another effective means of getting shower control, whereas T1 like to use Raze as boombot to do that, which again, they're not alone in doing that. I think even Relics a fair amount of times when he plays Raze on Bind can do something very similar. But just interesting to note that the Cypher plays here. I think Killjoy, being played by Mitch, will usually kind of play this role on defaults for Cloud9, so it's not uncharacteristic to see Sentinels kind of play this position, but usually Raze can be very strong at getting Hookah control because of the boombot, or using like Omen Paranoias or using Breach flashes in combination with some other duelists. It can also be very popular for Hookah control. And then usually you would have like your Sova playing Fountain and helping, get control of this long B area with recon bolts and things of that nature. Now that we kind of had that described, I mean, this is something you'll see T1 do a lot. They're a very default-oriented team, like to think things pretty methodically and just be kind of patient and play that, slow map control style. They can definitely change the pace when need be, which we'll talk about later. But point is everything that you're seeing from T1's pretty normal, but what you are seeing from Cloud9's particular round is that they're being very, very aggressive, right? I mean, they have basically all of their forces on the B side of the map. They have a lot of presence coming up through long B and a lot of different utility to use to safely get into long B and start threatening this fountain area. They also obviously have the Omen and Reyna that can work together to block vision and close distance up short. So they have a really strong, you know, B pressure set up here to pinch if anybody is caught in this hallway. As we can see with this round playing out, we are going to see Mitch and company actually using the flash to get out, and they are going to go ahead and get full fountains control. They actually do catch Brax in the hallway, as I was referring to. Skadoodle is able to trade one of them back, but then ultimately you're still able to see the rest of Cloud9 kind of come together and eventually fend off Skadoodle. That's going to be T1's actually takes him out. And at this point, Cloud9 are in really good shape. They have a 4 versus 3 situation. They have Spike down, and the bulk of what T1 has left is over on the A side. I mean, they're way over here. They're well out of position. They don't have spike control, and so they're pretty screwed. I mean, all that's really stopping Cloud9 here is the fact that AZK is nearby with the Omen, as you can see here. Now, I will say that they do have the spike down in kind of an awkward position where they have a lot of close quarters and a lot of angles they have to worry about. But all in all, they seem to be really well suited to win this round. And so as we see the rest of it play out, we can see AZK kind of sits back and he's waiting. He's trying to buy time for his teammates to get into better position to help him out. Maybe even set up a flank through B site. And so he's being, you know, fairly patient. There's a lot of time left on the clock. He knows that they have spike control. Vice is going to send the drone here. Going to try to get a little bit of information on what's going on. Actually doesn't really spot anything with that. AZK actually falls back over towards the portal. Now re-aggresses. Smoke goes down again, trying to stall anyone from being able to get back over here. And at this point, we've seen that T1's decided to put, you know, Daze on Silva next to AZK on the Omen, and they're going to send Raze on Spider to try to do a flank. They're going to try to pinch their way back into the round by having Spider kind of backstab while AZK and Daze, you know, kind of fight from the market direction. And AZK, you can see smartly clearing out, make sure he's not getting flanked. So, I mean, to be fair, T1 are playing patient and smart, and they're not, you know, panicking or anything along those lines. But again, Cloud9 seem to just have such good positioning here based on just how they're setting up. We will see Daze puts a nice little recon here, which actually does blip one of the players in market, as they're going to throw that a little bit of spam. It actually forces a peek out here from Relics, which actually gets caught there by AZK. And then they basically face again into another duel, and AZK is able to step in and find another kill, and this becomes huge because he does a lot of damage, gets some kills, and now the shock darts start coming in, and Spider's flank's able to come in. And I mean, that's a combination of a couple of things. One, on the one hand, you think Cloud9 should win that because they had the 4-on-3 and they had spike control, and you know, a lot of T1 was out of position to really do much about it. But then you also have to credit, you know, how well Daze and company use their resources in a man disadvantage to win the round. There's a combination of things there. There's some good play from T1, in my opinion. Again, they didn't panic. They played out the situation as best as they possibly could, you know, given what they had to work with here. I think they timed the flank really well. They didn't overcommit to duels throughout all this. They kind of peeked together and made sure they were almost taking 2v1s in a lot of situations until AZK actually swung all the way through. But even when he swung all the way through, he's getting shock dart assistance from Daze, and he's basically just distracting them for as long as he possibly can to allow this flank to set in from Spider, which does perfectly. I mean, and Daze doesn't even die. Like, he's smart with the shock darts. He's not overexposing himself when he launches them, and he's further letting Spider get in behind. So again, I think this is a great combination of great play from T1, but also a bit of a mishap from Cloud9, losing a man advantage round that they likely win more often than not. And this happened to them a few different times throughout this half, I will say. So Cloud9 actually do come back pretty quickly here and get this back to a 2-1 score. So despite losing that pistol, they don't let it rattle them too much. But this is the next, like, really big round that kind of sets a tone for the half. And this is T1 essentially setting up default once again. Again, they're going to have Spider, you know, over here using his utility to get showers room control. They're going to have the Sova working with one of their duelists, Scotto on the jet, to try to, you know, push back long B and get control of this area. And then they obviously have, you know, presence to kind of make sure that there's no hookah aggression going on. And just, you know, again, T1 kind of playing that slower, more methodical default. You can see that Spider has gotten a full control of showers at this point, has full information on what's going on over here, so can hold A players in place, but also can create pressure if he so chooses, can get orb, can really do a lot. And in the meantime, they've also really prevented anyone being able to push out of B and get intel for Cloud9. They're still basically stuck inside the site. They've made no real progress on Fountain or really inside Hookah. And so this is all pretty good stuff. We do see a smoke come out here, which is going to deny T1 easier access to hookah, and it kind of allows Cloud9 Blue to kind of start recapturing some control of it. Again, there's a lot of give and take on this round. You know, we see T1 playing out some map control. They've gotten at least control of showers. They've at least put some pressure towards B side. They forced some utility out of Cloud9 Blue to stop the threat of T1 taking control of hookah. But Cloud9's been proactive enough to kind of use their utility to get hookah control back, to try to push back some space, give them a little bit more flexibility. And so all in all, it's a little bit neutral right now. But this is a really good drone usage from Daze to get full information on what's going on up short. He's at least been able to clear out these close angles. Probably has a good idea to know what's playing inside the closet or pocket position, depending on what you call it. And he also gets a dart off on the player playing U-Haul, so he's able to completely watch this player and see where he's at. They can get some spam damage in through the wall. They can force him back towards spawn. They really gain a lot from that drone, as well as maybe he even got some information about people playing inside the site, not really sure. Smoke goes up on Heaven. That's really important to know, because what you're going to see here is basically just kind of like a perfect combination of distraction from T1. For one, they have great information on this player inside U-Haul. That's big. Maybe they haven't been able to clear out U-Haul with utility or a duel yet, but at least they know what they're up against over there, and they can basically, again, get spam damage, push this player out, and then really use that to get control of U-Haul for themselves, as well as some of the other utility they still have left on some of their other agents. What they can also do is, you know, they have full showers control already from Raze, since they know they have a splitting potential through A. They also are going to put a smoke onto Heaven. And what you're going to see here is AZK on the Omen is going to have the ult. And basically what he's going to do is teleport inside of the smoke in Heaven, which is something that a lot of people do. And it can sometimes be, you know, very easily read and therefore not have a whole lot of impact. But what you're going to see T1 do is they're going to combine it by also posting up Skadoodle on the jet on top of this double stack box. And basically what it causes is that defender in Heaven, who would normally be able to either kill AZK once he commits the ult into the smoke, or deny the ult by stopping it before it can form, is now going to have to face this player playing on top of the double stack boxes on short, and he has to, because now his U-Haul players push back. So at this point, this player inside Heaven that you're going to see for Cloud9 has a decision to make. Do they take the fight against Jet on Cat, or do they worry about the Omen inside the smoke on Heaven? And based on that decision, it really just creates a lot of chaos. It allows T1 to gain a lot of breathing room on attacking this A side. So let's take a look at it here. So as you can see, the damage is being done on the player in U-Haul. He's being pushed back. We see the Heaven player now forced to face this player on the double stack boxes. This U-Haul player is not there for support. Scott actually gets the kill, and so now AZK gets to go ahead and just form the ult inside Heaven with really no threat, and they can really use this to start just closing in and covering the rest of the site. This is just a really good attacking strategy from T1 through and through. Starts with good showers control with Raze, you know, good droning and you know, dart to push back the U-Haul player, you know, good smokes on Heaven and the main, you know, defender spawn rotation here over at Vent, and just a really good kind of bait and switch type of combo there with the, you know, from the shadows of AZK's Omen, as well as Skadoodle, you know, getting on top of the double stack boxes on short and just forcing the Heaven player into kind of an awkward position where... All right, so now we're going to end the video by talking about the final two rounds that they have from T1 and show just kind of some pacing changes for them. Again, remember, one of the big things that this team does is they're typically going to have, obviously, you know, Spider using the boom bot with Raze to get control of showers. We've established that, right? They can usually have Dazed with his Sova either helping patrol and get control of long B, or possibly sending his drone up short to get information on short A. Right, they typically have Brax kind of anchoring over towards the B side, you know, watching for hookah, maybe taking hookah control for himself and putting pressure to hold players in place or push and pull rotations. They have Skadoodle, who can float around between kind of holding B pressure, but also being able to take picks up short, do aggressive maneuvers by, you know, boosting on top double boxes, or, you know, dashing into U-Haul himself off the back of the drone to control that and start setting up A attacks. We have a general idea on how they like to do different things to get map control. And we also know they like to play like the slower default style a lot of times. But Daze obviously being a very good in-game leader from Counter-Strike, and with a lot of these guys being very experienced and very adaptable, they also can, you know, change the pace and kind of, you know, condition a team to make them think that they're playing against the default, but then, you know, kind of disguised plays that don't really give away that it's not just a normal default until it's already kind of too late. So in this round, what you're going to see is that T1 actually put a lot more emphasis on showers control, but it's not noticed right away by Cloud9. I mean, they see the Boombot, or hear it rather, and T1's is able to spam it through the smoke here with the Vandal. But with him using the Vandal, they're able to kind of pinpoint where he's at because of the tracers, and because if you're hearing gunshots through that smoke to your Boombot, then you know that someone has to be playing inside of the showers. Now, they can't know how many players are there. They can know that at least one is there. You can probably assume there might be one other kind of helping them, either for trading potential or to use their utility to help them kind of stay established or to get out if they get pressured. And so you can kind of draw some conclusions on, you know, there being one or two players inside showers at this point from the T1 side. And yeah, while their Boombot is done, they still have plenty here. They have the smoke up, which is going to basically allow them to kind of focus the fight on this corner unless someone wants to push the smoke and take a risk. And they can use, obviously, you know, some of its utility to really get in here and do some damage. And so here comes the grenade from Spider as well as the shock dart. So this is a great combination of so much damage, takes T1's out, and then Shinobi tries to push through to see if he can trade it back and just gets absolutely busted here. So this is really good control from T1. It's a good change of pace. You know, they also have players at short A to make sure they're not getting flanked from hookah, or to make sure that no one's getting aggressive on the short side. So it's not as if T1 are overcommitted to fighting for the showers control. They have really good balance. The only thing they don't really have tabs on is long B, which actually I think they do have a cam there from Brax. So even then they would be able to get that intel. They have the trap wire in place. So they really have all their bases covered, and they done all in all, it's pretty safe from T1 and really well done. But what you're going to see here is essentially just amazing play from Relics. I mean, look at him go. Just a great individual effort, getting a couple of big kills with the Vandal. This gets him his ult. Kind of flubs that grenade, but still is posing a lot here. Able to even still get the showstopper off thanks to the Boombot giving him the information there. So really great individual play from Let's. Gets the spike down, but again, the spike is down in kind of an awkward position. They know exactly where he is. And so at this point, he either has to try to fight them at the spike, or maybe think about retreating and doing some type of late play at short A and like flanking all the way around. He's got to, you know, dodge these shock darts and such, obviously, which is doing a pretty good job on staying alive. But with all these gunshots, I know that he's still there. He even has some support, obviously, coming in from a teammate. So this is really dicey right now for T1 because they're in a 2 versus 3 against Cloud9, who have good numbers. Now you have Vice getting into the mix as well, actually on that flank. And so basically all of them are going to be here inside showers. And you would think that this is now around for Cloud9 Blue, but you can just see that they kind of stick around, and as they're lingering, AZK and Dazed are finding duels around this wall, and now Vice is basically stuck by himself, lodged in the corner, and ultimately T1 are going to win this round, just off of playing together. So this is another round that's a combination of T1 doing some pretty cool stuff tactically, you know, changing the pace, fighting harder for showers control, getting a big advantage at the beginning of the round. Then they kind of flub it in combination with Rux making a really good individual play. So Cloud9 getting themselves a chance to win the round, 3-on-2, but then they ultimately lose. And there was a couple other rounds like that as well throughout this half. So again, this half is very much a combination of Cloud9 letting some advantages slip, but T1 being very crafty in the small number situations, as well as being really crafty with how they disguise their plays and how they play out their default to get a lot done, really. As we'll now get into the final round of the game. And what you're going to see here from T1 in the final round of the game is a complete just overhaul of everything. Not even Spiders to be playing outside showers, right? I mean, Spider's going right with the rest of his team over to B side of the map very early on. There's obviously a bank shot that can be done with the Boombot to get control of hookah. He actually doesn't even do that, though. He just kind of goes out there and throws it, but they have a great combination of utility here just to barrage their way in. They use Spider's, you know, showstopper to get the kill, and they just snap onto B. And this is probably the hardest and fastest they've hit the B side all game long, and they save it until the very last round of the half, which just catches Cloud9 Blue completely off guard. This is just a great use of utility and ults from T1 to just kind of shock on all this B side. Because essentially the cam comes in, when it goes off, they know that Mitch is pushing, though the flash is effective, obviously. But still, they know what they're up against. Boombot comes in. Mitch kind of misses his spray here. Obviously, he's using the Stinger, which is not the most accurate weapon when spraying like this. So he's kind of at a loss because of that, because their economy's not great. But the Boombot is still alive and kicking, still pushing him backwards, so he still has to kind of like retreat. He gets hit by a nice paranoia. Now he can't really get away, and the showstopper comes in, and Ska was able to step out with that as well and catch the player in window. I'm not sure if that paranoia would have hit the window player too. I know it obviously hit him. I'm not sure if it would have hit Vice. Either way, he gets crushed by a Skadoodle while the showstopper hits Mitch. And that's basically the round done and dusted at that point. I mean, you have the quick rotation through the portal here, from Cloud9 trying to backstab through Hookah, but the site gets controlled, follow-up utility goes down to block off back hauls, and now they're just able to kind of pick their fights. And while Alex and T1's do pretty well here to start kind of reeling it back in, give themselves somewhat of a hope at cracking this back open, Brax able to catch T1's there. Now they know that all players are B, and they can just get the hell out of there. They can just use the, map layout to portal their way over to A, make sure that the spike gets safely through into A site through showers. They have Brax kind of making sure that the rotation through short A through market, which is the fastest way that they could rotate from C9 Blue at this point, is covered, and then basically lock in the round. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know this is a little bit rushed and a little bit kind of all over the place, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want this show to be, what I want the format to be. I'm also currently still recovering from COVID, so I'm a little bit foggy, so to speak, but I know I wanted to get some content out before First Strike started, just to kind of put this out there as a concept and get feedback on before I start doing more videos like this for some of the First Strike matches as they occur over the next couple of weeks. So, just, again, let me know what you think. Would you like to see shows like this where I break down entire halves? Would you like me to break down particular plays? I just want to focus on big matches and like important matches, like playoff matches of big tournaments, or maybe upsets, or different things like that. Or if I see a really cool strat, I want to highlight it. So maybe this show is going to be a little bit of everything. Not really sure, but hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please follow, subscribe for more content. Catch you next time.